Hello there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan, and I don't know if you guys saw, but a trailer just dropped for the next major Star Wars TV show, and this one, well, it's going to be very different from everything else we've seen so far. The show is called Acolyte, and it takes place in a previously uncovered period of time in Star Wars history known as the High Republic era. Well, by uncovered, I mean for most fans, it's gone under the radar because this lore has mostly been released through a series of novels and comics. The first of which is the High Republic Light of the Jedi, which came out in early 2021. Now, I personally have read several novels in this series, but because of a lack of general interest from the fan base, and also admittedly my own lack of interest, I haven't really done many videos about this time period in Star Wars history. It doesn't mean that I'm writing off the High Republic period. I feel like I just haven't read enough of it to get a good feel of what the creators are trying to do here. Now, the High Republic does represent a very important move for Disney moving forward as a company and Star Wars as a franchise. Since Disney took over the franchise from Lucasfilm, the massive media company has gotten into a lot of heat from almost every direction about the sequel trilogy they rolled out. You all know the criticisms, the controversies, the clashes between fans, but the result has been that the First Order resistance and war period has become super toxic, so much so that no creator really wants to touch it. And so instead, Disney has been focusing on making series about old legacy characters featuring fan favorites like the Kenobi series, the Ahsoka series, and the Book of Boba Fett. They've also hired the excellent Tony Gilroy to flesh out the success of Rogue One by creating the show Andor. And of course, we have The Mandalorian and his little baby Gogurt, which probably has been the most successful piece of media created by Disney Star Wars so far. But even if Andor and The Mandalorian are both terrific, they just don't seem like A stories. They feel like side adventures in the larger Star Wars saga. As much as I like Andor, he's just an everyman fighting against Imperial goons, and Din Djarin, well, he's not even fighting the Empire. He's fighting the Empire's DLC content. The point is, while these shows are fun, there's a complete lack of grandeur and epicness that we're kind of used to when it comes to Star Wars. Now, I'm not saying that the Acolyte show will bring us those things, but what it does represent is Disney's first foray into a new period on the Star Wars timeline since their disastrous sequel adventure, which is plagued by not only political clashes, but also just a lack of planning. One hopes that as a company, Disney has learned its lesson to not rush when releasing content, and given the current financial environment and the disappearance of easy money, am I foolish enough to believe that they can change? Well, from a quantity standpoint, the High Republic definitely has a lot of backstory already. With 36 separate stories already released within a span of just 3 years, that's a lot of content and lore to color the world in. Disney is banking on the fact that a small organic following for the High Republic has already begun to grow, creating a foundation of viewers for the show when it releases this June. So what exactly is the Acolyte? What is the High Republic period? So the High Republic period lasts roughly from 500 BBY to 100 BBY. And so it's about half a century after the Rusan Reformation and the many reforms made during this period of time. The complete rejection of warfare and violence has allowed the citizens of the galaxy to reap dividends. Who knew that concentrating on peace and preventing war could create an environment for continuous and steady economic development, which could lift billions of beings out of poverty all across the galaxy. More people were living a good life than ever before, and more people believed in the Republic and its Jedi Guardians than ever before. And with all that public support on their side, the leaders of these institutions were able to focus on some very grand and ambitious plans. With war and conflict removed from the equation, the citizens of the Republic went back to exploration. You had prominent families like the Santecas and the Graf family, who made fortunes prospecting for hyperspace lanes, finding new connections into unknown areas that lie outside of civilized space. And by civilized space, I mean just the core worlds to the colonies, regions. Everything that existed outside of that to the outer rim territories was underdeveloped, dangerous, and a mystery to most people in the Republic. Consequently, it was also here that the Republic and its Jedi allies thought it could do the most good. In 382 BBY, young Greylark and Orlan Molo were co-chancellors of the Galactic Republic. That was a thing back then. Greylark was more of a political mastermind, and Molo enjoyed being more hands-on and working with the people directly. The two would create Republic Outer Rim exploration teams and send them to officially make new hyperspace lanes, make contact with isolated planets, and establish communications throughout the Outer Rim. These teams were usually made up of a Jedi Master and a Padawan, along with a medic and a droid team who can provide further assistance. Of course, even during the Golden Age, when the Jedi and Republic prodded the unknown and got involved in places that they weren't before, they would run into antagonistic forces. Not just bandits and pirates, the unknown region held deeper, darker secrets, the kind of ancient horrors that can only grow when there is no civilization nearby to keep it in check. But by 243 BBY, not much had changed in the Republic. Chancellor Lina So, who was famous for taking meetings flanked by two of her massive pet alien lions, was still fighting to tame the Outer Rim. You had the Office of the Frontier now, which handled messages and complaints from Outer Rim colonists who needed help, but there still weren't enough peacekeepers to help the Republic keep a presence in the Outer Rim. Chancellor Lina So's strategy was to expand the size of the federal government and build a series of great works in the Outer Rim, which would give the Republic more visibility all across the galaxy. One of those great works would be known as the Starlight Beacon. Located on the galactic frontier, this massive structure would be a visible representation of the Republic's promise to finally bring stability to this part of the galaxy. The station was first and foremost a military outpost staffed by individuals from the Republic Defense Coalition and Jedi Order. There would be a hospital, research station, observatory, along with a market and cultural center, highlighting all the diverse groups that made up the Republic. Lina So wanted the Starlight Beacon to inspire the citizens of the Republic and at the same time serve as a warning to all those who threatened the Republic. But Lina So would face the same challenges that her predecessors did. The more regions that the Jedi Pathfinders found, the more areas of the galaxy that became connected to the Republic, the more enemies the Republic would find to fight. This is really just the result of the Republic's outward expansion in the last few tens of thousands of years. With each outward push, with each successive victory, the Sith, the undesirables, the monsters, the evil Force cults were also pushed outwards. And like the Sith, these evil entities were never truly defeated. They were just becoming more and more concentrated in the Outer Rim and waiting for the Republic to do something stupid, like overstress themselves. And so, despite the fact that the High Republic period is considered a golden age for the Republic and the Jedi, there were actually quite a lot of threats that the good guys had to face during this period. You had marauders with FTL technology the galaxy had never seen. You had ancient carnivorous plants who could control people's minds through the Force. You had cults like the Path of the Open Hand whose view of the Force challenged everyone, including the Jedi. What the High Republic represents is a period of history in the Star Wars galaxy that hopefully will feel fresh to audiences. It won't be as dark and hectic and overwhelming as the Old Republic era, when there were massive battlefields full of Jedi and Sith warriors. It won't be as bleak as the original trilogy era, where the galaxy was just devoid of the Force and the Jedi. Instead, it will be an era of prosperity, a time in which the Republic and the Jedi have everything going for it. And we will see that even at their height, their best efforts will not be enough to save the galaxy. Or at least, that's what I hope to see. You see, the Jedi Order and the Republic of this period is supposed to be richer, larger, and more powerful than any other period. The Jedi Order were supposed to be far more open-minded than during Master Yoda's reign a century later. For instance, a Jedi could officially disagree with the teachings of the Jedi High Council and become a way seeker or independent Jedi who meditated on the Force by themselves. These Jedi either found isolated places to live and meditate, or found causes and revolutions to support. It was said that when Obi-Wan Kenobi found out about the ancient Wayseeker title, he wondered if his own master Qui-Gon Jinn would have been one if it were still allowed. My point is, for all those people who defend the Jedi Order and what it represents, this was their shot to prove that the Jedi way worked. The Sith were more or less removed from the equation and still working in the shadows. The Jedi had ultimate political and economic support from the Republic. There were no wars or Sith plots meddling in their affairs just yet, and so this was really the Jedi at their peak form, and I'm excited to see them in action this way. Now, the Acolyte at its core is supposed to be a thriller. A dark power is emerging, and the Jedi seem to be getting targeted by some mysterious force or organization which is killing their members one by one. There are plenty of forces always targeting the Jedi, but to kill one is definitely not an easy thing to do, especially if you are not Force sensitive. At the very end of the trailer, we do see red lightsaber ignite, which makes the Jedi on cue all ignite their own lightsabers. It is possible that we have some dark side Force user or Sith-related proxy Force here threatening the Order once again, but judging by some of the dialogue we hear in the background and this mysterious assassin we keep seeing who doesn't seem to have a lightsaber or any Force powers, I'm going to suggest that this show might be about one of those previous threats I mentioned before, the Path of the Open Hand. See, the Path of the Open Hand believe that the Force should not be wielded or touched by any living beings. If the Sith seek to bend the Force to their will and the Jedi want to become one with the Force, the Path believe that everyone should just leave the Force alone. Any manipulation of the Force was seen as abusive towards the Force and hurt the balance of the galaxy itself. The members of the Path viewed the Jedi as some of the most dangerous individuals in the galaxy and believed much of the misfortune that the people suffered was due to their careless use of this energy field. Although the movement started out relatively peacefully, they would eventually target the Jedi with creatures known as the Nameless or Shri Karai. The Path were very much antagonistic and trying to destroy the Jedi Order. I mean, these were monsters that fed off a Force-sensitive individual's energy. When they came into proximity of one, the Force user would experience hallucinations and loss of connection to the Force. If exposed to enough of these creatures or placed close enough to one, a Force user would eventually die and just become a petrified husk. The Path would eventually be defeated and disbanded by the Jedi, but some of their members would escape, and one day their ancestors would return with these terrifying nameless monsters and cause tons of problems for the Jedi Order. They would even seek to destroy the Starlight Beacon, which kind of represented the Republic's hope for the Outer Rim. I'm going to guess that this faction, or at least someone related to it, is going to serve as the main antagonist for the Acolyte series, especially when we hear this quote here.
This isn't about good or bad. This is about power and who is allowed to use it.
It sounds exactly like something a follower of the Path would say when justifying their opposition to the Jedi. Anyway, just a little speculation for me. I'm always excited to see new Star Wars content, and although I'm not the biggest fan of the High Republic, I hope that the Acolytes will deliver well. It'd be nice to see Disney pull off some original content in the Star Wars galaxy that isn't really tied to anything else. So far, the High Republic as a novel series hasn't been very well received or attracted that much attention. And so quite a lot is riding on this TV show. If you guys are interested in watching The Acolyte or just interested in Star Wars lore and discussions about it, please don't forget to subscribe and follow us here at Generation Tech. I'll see you guys next time.